Peter, really, I was reading about your story. It very much comes into the big argument that so many people are having at the moment about assisted dying. Can you just tell us what happened to you? Actually, not that long ago, really just over a year ago, because your life changed dramatically, didn't it?
It did. About just over a year ago, I noticed twitching, very severe twitching in my hands, and my muscles were wasting in my right hand, and I was losing strength. And I went to, in fact, a private GP who said, well, you better go to a neurologist and have it diagnosed. And throughout January of the last year, I had a whole barrage of tests. And on the 29th of January, I went in to see the specialist. And he said, well, it can only be one thing. You've got motor neuron disease. Now, I'm not a medical person, but I know that motor neuron disease is really one of the most fearsome things that you can die of. You can't swallow, you can't breathe, you can't move, you can't speak towards the end.
So immediately, I suppose, you were seeing a very, very bleak future.
Very bleak. Well, no future. He said it's inevitably terminal. There is a Rilutech, a medicine which slows it down very slightly, but it's marginal. He prescribed that for me, and said that death usually came between 1.5 and 4 years or so after diagnosis. However, he said it can very often come quite quickly. And he told me that I should make no plans whatsoever beyond 6 months.
Wow.
And that, you know...
So what was your plan then? Just because that of course, will have had a profound psychological impact on you as well.
It did. I panicked. And I thought, I can't cope. I live on my own. And I simply can't cope with this. So the next day, I signed up with Dignitas in Switzerland, with a view that they said that you needed 6 months or so to do the paperwork for Dignitas, and I thought, well, maybe I've only got 6 months to live, so if I'm going to sign up with them, I better sign up immediately.
That was very rapid, and that was a dramatic decision to make.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was quite a quick decision. Was it so very clear in your mind that now you got this diagnosis, that's what you had to do, or you wanted to do?
The doctor said that he was going to write down that I had suspected motor neuron disease, but he told me face to face that there was absolutely no doubt that that's what I had, and I should plan on that basis, and so they were my plans. What he then did, he said, we can obviously go for a second opinion, and you will need a great deal of care. So he sent me to a very large London teaching hospital, and one of the senior specialists in the country saw me, and I didn't see that person until at the very beginning of April, and he did some tests and totally confirmed that I had motor neuron disease. There was no doubt whatsoever. And he sent me to various other specialists, breathing specialists, a specialist nurse who would give me advice, a palliative care doctor to talk about my end-of-life care.
So very rapidly, these huge and dramatic things were happening, but there was a major problem with the diagnosis, wasn't there?
What happened, I was expecting, obviously, to get worse very quickly, and I thought, I'll just go back a step.
Sure.
The specialist, the senior specialist, said that although I might have up to 5 years to live, it is possible that I could be dead within 2 months. And they pointed out that the wasting in my hands had been there for some time, so I had already the disease quite a long time, they suspected. Anyway, what happened is I didn't get any worse. And as April, May, June, July, August went on, I couldn't understand it. I was getting no worse, I was having no trouble in any area. And then I even noticed that my right hand was getting a bit stronger.
Mm-hmm. So this is completely against what you'd been told was going to happen?
Completely and totally against. So going back and forth to the various specialists, they sent me for some more, I don't know the technical name, nerve conductivity tests. They stick a needle in and run an electric current through it. That was in end of October, I think. And the specialist there at the same teaching hospital said, no, this doesn't look like motor neuron disease at all.
Goodness me.
It looks like something called multifocal motor neuropathy, which is a mild condition. You certainly don't die of it.
And basically curable.
And
or
treatable.
Can be treatable anyway.
And treatable. It's an autoimmune condition. And the problem from the doctor's point of view, and if you look it up on the internet, it's a mimic disease of motor neuron disease. And in the early stages, it has very much the similar characteristics of motor neuron disease. But I finally got the diagnosis that it was multifocal motor neuropathy in November.
So it was nearly a year after the original diagnosis.
That's correct.
How did that, just tell us the psychological effect that had had, because you could have taken your own life. So already you'd sort of made those plans.
I had made those plans. What happened, I decided, after the initial shock and panic, I pulled myself together somewhat, and I switched instead to practical plans. I found a care home that dealt with people with motor neuron disease and went to see them, and they said they would accept me, and I decided which hospice I wanted to die in. And so I personally, I'm a practicing Catholic, and notwithstanding that, I did join Dignitas, but I then moved away from that because I felt, this was not the right thing to do, to kill myself. I was just going to have to go through it. But others would not have taken that view. They wouldn't have had my particular Christian faith, and they would, I presume, have said, well, two very eminent specialists have said, you've got motor neuron disease. You know how this ends, and there's a particular problem with motor neuron disease that you lose all your muscle strength. So you can't leave assisted suicide to the very end, because you don't have the muscle power to press the button. So it has to be some way before the end.
How do you feel towards those specialists? I mean, they're pretty eminent people who got it very wrong.
I think I don't want to blame them. I'm sure they were doing their best. The point, the main...
Others may not feel so generous, Peter.
Well, it seems to me there are two main lessons come out of this story. One is that doctors, however eminent, make mistakes. And in my case, it was an enormous mistake, which could have led to catastrophic consequences. And I see in the assisted dying bill, it says you need 2 doctors to sign. Well, I had 2 doctors.
You had 2 doctors, yeah.
Who had both confirmed what I had. And they had both said, one had said I should make no plans beyond 6 months. Another said that in the worst case, I could be dead within 2 months. So, and then it has to go to a judge. Well, I don't know what, would the judge have disagreed with them? If I had a settled intent to end my life, and the doctors had confirmed what I had, and everyone knows about motor neuron disease. I believe in Dignitas, it's for neurological diseases, it's the single biggest reason.
Yes, and you can see why, certainly.
And you can absolutely see why.
How do you feel about the assisted dying debate now? It's a very current, very live political debate. What do you make of that?
I'm very sympathetic to the very good people who are trying to help people who are suffering. And for those people who wish to kill themselves, I do understand that they wish to terminate their lives early. And I felt like that myself for a while. The problem comes when you look at the details of it. And, how do you carry out, who decides? At least when they said 2 doctors will certify that you have the disease, I suppose you might say, well, they might get the timing wrong. But who would have thought they actually get the disease wrong, which they did in my case, catastrophically, potentially. And so while I understand people who are proposing this, I think it's a very bad idea, and it would in my case, I realised that the end-of-life care and the palliative care I was being offered was impressive. The NHS really came up trumps, and I was surrounded by specialists for those months. And I thought, well, I shall just have to go through with it.
How are you feeling now, Peter? What is your both physical and psychological state now?
Physically, I'm fine. The only problem, I have weakness in my right hand, and I hope that will recover. Psychologically, it's going to take, I think, it's been an immensely traumatic experience, and I feel I've been in front of a firing squad for 9 months or so, and it takes a while to regain your former composure and life. But time will sort that out, and I know I'll be fine.
And there are many MPs now and others who are having thoughts and big decisions to make about this assisted dying bill. What's your message to them?
What would my message be? Don't just focus on the principle of it, because we can all understand that. Focus on the details of it. Because the moment you get down to the detail, it becomes less and less possible. And I suppose the second thing would be focus on palliative care. And, I felt I would be looked after insofar as they can. There's nothing you can really do for motor neuron disease. But for a lot of people, the palliative care is not so great. And that would be a better area to focus on, I feel.
Peter, really fascinating speaking to you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Really interesting real-world example there, and it humanises the debate to such a degree. So thank you for coming in. That's Peter Sefton-Williams there. He's a former journalist and marketing manager. Really fascinating story.